Hello, welcome everyone to Shaman Sister Sessions, episode 12, from Ceremony to Action. And I'm Katherine Bird, and this is Michelle Hawk. And
hello.
We are the Shaman Sisters, and we are here to talk about consciousness and shamanism and healing and what it's like in our lives living this path, and to be inspirations into yours. And today we are going to talk about ceremonial work as from the perspective of the shaman, and then taking that ceremonial work and bringing it out into the world, and what that means, what that's like, what our experience of that is. Both Michelle and I had some pretty epic shamanic adventures this weekend.
I like how you put that. Yes.
And so we are here to chat about that and share more with each other and with you about our experiences and what we've received in our ceremonial work, and what's next, building upon that.
Yeah, and so we're speaking today in particular about ceremony of this weekend, and in general, we decided to offer this video podcast, because we were having these conversations anyway. This is what Kat and I like to get together and nerd out over, is, human consciousness and social growth and development and the awakening of the planet Earth. And then it occurred to us, why are we not making these conversations accessible to everyone? So this is our great joy. This is our great passion. And it is such an exciting adventure for us to share it with you. So as always, you are free to contact us through our email address, shamansistersessions@gmail.com. You can find us on our Facebook page and let us know what you want to hear about. We always are open to suggestions and hearing what is coming up for your awakening and how can we include that in one of our episodes. So
feel free to chat in while we're working here today. Just if you have a question, if something comes up you want to share, feel free to chat in.
Yeah.
I'm hearing from you.
Yes. So this weekend, we did have some very interesting shamanic adventures, some ceremonial experiences. I live in Portland, Oregon, and Kat lives outside of San Diego in California. And so we were not in ceremony together. And yet I definitely felt you in ceremony this weekend. And
I was bringing you in, having opportunity to speak your name into the circle. And
thank you.
I wore the medicine pouch that Michelle, a year ago, Michelle gave me her medicine pouch she'd been wearing, I think she was like a little girl. And so I wore your medicine pouch with your goddess inside. And so that was really a beautiful way to feel your energy and connection into the circle that was there.
Thank you so much. And I deeply felt the medicine that you were working with. And when I was in my Sunday ceremony, I did some very specific work with an animal totem, and I will be telling you about that. I was deeply feeling you, because this was the second incarnation of this event, the first one of which I did with you. And so I absolutely felt your presence for that medicine as well. So that goes to show people, ceremony is not confined to any particular space and time. The actions that we take and the prayers that we invoke, the beings whom we call in, the connections that we create in ceremony are boundless. And so please consider that as, your ceremony does not exist outside of the context of the rest of your life. It is not separate from anyone to whom you are close. You can call people into ceremony with you. You can call beloved ones into ceremony with you. You can call all of humanity into ceremony with you, as many ceremonies do, and explore the richness of that connection as we did this weekend.
Yes. And as we're talking about how we how we live our ceremony, how we live ceremony while we're in the context of we've created the container for this to happen, and this is what we're doing at this exact moment. And then also in our daily life, this living ceremony that we are. I know that I often tell my people that we are practices in every moment. I teach a lot of practices. So practices in every moment. We cultivate practice almost so that we can get to the point where our system is able to just drop into that practice at any moment, and we're there and we're practicing in the moment of washing the dishes and driving and making love and all of these things. We're practicing our energy cultivation, we're practicing our grounding and our awareness, our mindfulness, our meditation at every moment. And ceremony is that same way. I'm sure, Michelle, that you can feel this, is that especially when we are doing quite a bit of ceremony, it starts to feel like, oh, actually everything is a ceremony. In the way that we pour our tea in the morning, and the way that we sit in front of the altar, the way that we interact with other people, when we start to draw those essences of ceremony into our lives, we start to live differently on a daily basis and become this stand for this ceremonial work in the world.
Yeah, very well put. Exactly. I like to think of it as living ritual, where, I know that you teach your practices very deeply, and this is something that I do as well, is every breath is a prayer. Every step on the earth is a renewal of my commitment to service. And I was feeling that deeply on my run this morning, actually. My training for a half marathon, I'm progressing in my distance. I'm doing my speed workouts. I did a speed workout this morning, and I was tired on my 1.5 mile cool down. I was very tired. And the way that I kept going is by dropping into my prayer space, where I could feel even though my legs were exhausted, I had just, blasted out a series of speed intervals, and every breath was a prayer. And I was affirming to myself, each breath that I am practicing right now in this time where it's a little bit more challenging for me to breathe, each breath is a prayer. And every step that I take on the earth is a commitment. And it is a commitment that I can send the vibration of my steps into the earth. And each beat of my heart that is pounding with this, the blood pumping, feeling this movement, every beat of my heart is a call to my tribe to join me in the rhythm of the earth drum. And that's how I finished out my run today. My 1.5 miles running uphill. I was exhausted, and yet I made it a practice of devotion. And it felt so good to finish this ritual for myself. I run for myself. It's part of my personal practice. And I finished it as ceremony. And that felt really amazing. So this is how we can bring ceremony to each moment of our lives. And yet there are times when, our living ritual is punctuated by deep dive ceremony. And that's what we had this weekend. We both had, okay, we're going to establish the container. We're going to drop into the channel space. We're going to drop into the healer space. And that's something that you and I do regularly for ourselves and our clients. And yet this weekend was different. This was a very supercharged Lunar New Year deep dive ceremony weekend.
Mm-hmm. It did feel like really awakening newness. And I love your words there. Just such a beautiful reflection of what that is to really feel that. And we have these deep dives, and we're witnessing ourselves in this moment of this deep dive experience in ceremonial work as this microcosm experience of ourselves in the macro, right? That the world, as we're seeing the world thrust into so much chaos and pain and worry and fear and all of the shadow aspects of humanity really being brought to the surface, really being witnessed, being shown to us so clearly. And one of the things that happens when we do ceremonial work is that we are shown so clearly our own personal individual shadow and collective shadow. And by really witnessing it, by seeing it, feeling it in our bones, where it's like, oh, it's so hard. Oh, it's just like, really? Is that really me? And is that really like life? And oh, wow, it's so painful. And we can feel it, and it's like moving through our bones and our blood, and being that witness of self, allowing it to move through our system, like releasing, relaxing, surrendering into the experience of it, and being able to witness that our own individual experience is a reflection of what's happening on this grander scale level. And that by really working on ourselves, we're doing this deep healing work, we are also doing really deep healing work for the collective, for the greater consciousness of humanity, by being willing to be in this uncomfortable space, by being willing to look at what's happening, by being willing to be present to what is there, and coming back into presence of love, coming back into presence of awareness of higher powers, awareness of connection to all. And I think that that's an important part when we're looking at ceremony as a container or as our life. And then, you know, coming back in on Monday, and I had, you know, been out of touch, and you go being on Monday, and you know, look on Facebook and the news and all of the things, you're like, oh my God, okay, this is what's happening. And just as in ceremonial work, you can't hide from what is happening out there. You can't hide from what's happening inside of you when you really sit in ceremonial work and you really look at yourself. We can't hide from the reality of what's happening. We can't just spiritually bypass what's happening and go, well, it's all love and light. And even though we know, yes, this is part of the process, like, we are here to witness as these light workers. We're here to witness what is happening here, and to hold our fellow humans as we are rising in consciousness to actually shift these shadow behaviors.
Yeah. And, you know, really well said. And, you know, you were speaking a little bit of the microcosm of ceremony and the place it holds in the context of social growth and development and evolutionary planetary movements. This actually used to really bother me several years ago, as I was, maybe many years ago, as I was sort of newer to this process of ceremony, where I had this revelation about, oh, ceremony is in every moment, you know, like we were talking about. And I would go to these festivals or go to ceremonies where I could see people dropping in, and it felt like they were dipping their toe in the water, and they were treating it as this isolated experience that was separate from the rest of their lives. And it used to really bother me, because I would see, no, don't you see that this is not, and this isn't separate from the rest of your life. This is a magnified moment, a moment when you have access to greater energies, when you have the collective consciousness of all of these other people gathered in ceremony with you. Don't treat it as, oh yeah, that was a fun weekend that I dropped into for a minute, and then go back to the rest of your life. Bring it with you and treat it as, this was a weekend when I received an infusion of new energy to continue to power the rest of my life, and use that momentum to keep going. And I've come to a place of much more gentleness around that now. I no longer have that prickly feeling of, what do you think they're doing, dropping into my ceremony and treating it like a, you know, fun whatever weekend. I recognize that that people are in different places on their journey, and it's much easier for me to feel a lot softer about that now. But the way that I look at it is exactly as I said, is it's not an isolated experience. It's when you get to reattune to whatever frequency you're working with that you want to call in, you get a lot of help from everybody else who's there, especially in group ceremony. And I do one, solo ceremony all the time, and that's its own special, unique, that's its own thing. But group ceremony, work with that and call that in and use the momentum of that to continue to move forward on your path. Bring the magic of that into every area of your life, especially now, especially as we are in such a period of social upheaval and political turmoil. Now is the time to be doing group ceremony. Now is the time when it is more important than ever to come together as community to call in these infusions of new energy, because by ourselves, we are not going to be able to do anything. And so it is more important than ever to honor the group container, to participate in a group container and use that energy to power us forward, keep the momentum going. Yeah, and treat it as a cohesive part of the greater context.
Yes, and we know that groups are powerful, right? We know that groups of people meditating and sending energy can actually change structure of water. We know that things can be created through group consciousness, and we're seeing so much group consciousness coming together this week around the demonstrations and the protests and people standing for each other. And, a lot of that, there's a lot of chaotic energy within that. There's a lot of fear and a lot of anger, hatred. There's this aspect of that kind of group energy. And this is really important. It's important for us to be out getting our voices heard and building these communities of resistance. And also, because that can be so emotionally exhausting, that can be so intense for especially those of us who are walking the path as healers, as empaths, as those that really feel the emotional collective so greatly, our grief workers of the world. To also give yourself the space for collective ceremony, even if it's just gathering a few of your friends together to really pray and hold space for compassion and love and kindness and the highest and greatest good for all beings, in a place where, yes, we're in pain, we're feeling the collective, and to allow ourselves to be nurtured by ceremonial work at this time is very important, because otherwise we will kind of burn out our systems. This is going to be a long fight. This is not going to be a couple weeks and it's over. This is a very large shift in consciousness that we're dealing with. This is a lot of work. It's a lot of heavy lifting. And so we are needing to come back to the well of our ceremonial works to be able to sustain ourselves throughout this mission, and maybe drawing some people who haven't had access to this kind of experience before, allowing them, bringing them in and bringing them into this kind of reality. If you're good at ceremonial work, if you are part of a collective that does ceremonial work, doing some extra reach out for those that don't have access to this. And drawing them in, as we said, on an energetic level, drawing them into this ceremony so that they can receive some of the support and the energy from the work that you are doing.
Absolutely. And I want to touch upon one of the points that you mentioned, this sustainability aspect of this work that we are doing right now. As you mentioned, this is not a short-term situation that we have put ourselves in. ceremony can't, depending on the kind of ceremony that you're doing and the energies that you're working with, especially if you do choose to work with substances or plant medicine, it can burn you out. So it is possible to overdo ceremony.
Absolutely.
The way that we're talking about doing ceremony, where, you know, every breath is a prayer and every moment is a ritual, that is a very sustainable, grounded way to implement your ceremony practice. And if you'd like some help with that, please do feel free to contact either or both of us, and we're happy to help you dive into how can you bring that aspect of ritual and practice to your life.
Yes.
But, you know, please do take this as not a suggestion to go out and, you know, participate in a whole bunch of medicine ceremonies and, you know, every single weekend. You're going to burn yourself out. This is not
integration. Give yourself space for integration. Give yourself time for that.
Exactly.
Ceremonial work is intense. We're doing a lot of healing work. We're moving shadow. We're moving a lot of stuff through our body systems, and we must always be conscious of our system, of our physical body, of our energy body, our emotional body, our spiritual body, that we have to rest. We have to take care of ourselves, and we are warriors, and we sometimes we push it a little too far, a little too fast, a little too hard. And you know, we're Michelle and I are both huge proponents for really listening to the self and really allowing integration time whenever you're doing a deep ceremonial work, and especially if you are working with medicines.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I wanted to insert that caveat of please take care of yourself. Yes, use the power and the new energy of ceremony, but don't run off it solely. You need to take care of yourself in other ways too. And so let's jump into a little bit about what we did this weekend. You know, we've alluded to that a couple of times. I was working with, in particular, wolf totem, wolf medicine. I hosted a studio open house at my new classroom studio space this weekend, and it was wonderful. It was part Lunar New Year celebration. I did some channeling work, some intention and prayer work, did some mini group ceremony of studio blessing. And the deep dive that I experienced was on Sunday when I facilitated an animal song event. I am an animal song carrier. Animals are a huge component of my medicine. I've been working with animals in this entire life and many lifetimes beyond. Animals come and offer their medicine in what I call cycles of power. So working with an animal totem in its cycle of power is a way that we as a collective consciousness can access that particular magic as it's dominant right now. The last time I facilitated this workshop was in June when I was visiting you. We were working with butterfly totem, which was very much about shamanic death and rebirth. The animal totem who is currently dominant in its cycle of power right now on the earth plane is wolf. Wolf has been appearing to me for months now and pretty much howling at me to get its message out into the world, for me to share its song as it is offering its medicine for the collective consciousness. I'll share with you briefly what that was like for me and some of the messages that Wolf has. Wolf is one of the bossiest totems I have ever worked with, ever. I had, Wolf announced himself to me as pack leader. He was telling me what to do. He was telling me what to wear to prepare for ceremony. He had me do my wolf eye makeup in a certain way. I've never really dressed or done any makeup or adornments in a certain way for working with an animal totem before, because for me it's more about feeling and speaking and singing the medicine. But he said, nope, you got to do the wolf eyes and you can't eat any chocolate. So I was forbidden from eating chocolate because it is toxic to wolves, which was a bummer for me, but that's okay. And he had everyone sit in very particular places for the ceremony. He had me set up a very specific altar. Everything was very ritualized. Everything was very in order. Wolf, as this totem is offering its medicine to the collective consciousness right now, is a north holder right now in this moment. Wolf is working with structure. Wolf is working with how can we as a society come into right relationship with ourselves and with each other. That is how Wolf is appearing predominantly right now. It's finding the joy in discipline, finding the joy in understanding the role that we play in the collective consciousness. Wolf had some very beautiful messages to share about what it means to hold healthy structure, what it means to offer ourselves in service to healthy, balanced social dynamics. And Wolf offered himself, pack leader, came into my body to facilitate activation ceremony, and all the participants, they were activated to Wolf medicine. And on my end of that experience, you know, Kat, you were talking about ceremony being kind of uncomfortable. This was kind of uncomfortable. Not all ceremony is nice and easy and floaty and comfortable. This was, I felt my ribs being pulled apart to make space for this energy to come into my body. You know how wolves have the nice deep barrel chest? I could feel my ribs being pulled so that pack leader could come into my body. And I felt myself walking differently as I was preparing for ceremony. I felt myself in my body differently. My awareness was different. The words that I was saying was different because I was holding space for a very powerful energy that is not like my own. The people who were participating in the ceremony felt Wolf awaken within them. We did a shape-shifting exercise at the end. And this was one of my favorite things to hear from a participant where, you know, she normally needs glasses to read and write, like significantly needs her glasses. And she found as she was doing the shape-shifting exercise, she wanted to write something down. And she had to take off her glasses because she didn't need them. Her eyes were perfectly clear to write this down. So she wrote something down. And then after we shifted back into our human form, she had to put her glasses back on. So this working with this particular medicine was very powerful in terms of activating within ourselves the wolf consciousness in order to bring structure, bring new, healthy, balanced, right relationship structure to society. That's how wolf is appearing right now. And it was so juicy and potent to bring that medicine into ceremony this weekend. So that's what I did.
That's beautiful, Michelle.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I know that I was able to witness. Gosh, was that June? That was so long ago.
That was in June. I can't believe it. It feels like just a couple of months ago, and yet no, it was June.
When you were here and we did our animal dance event, and Wolf came through.
Oh, that one was in October.
That one was in October, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was just such a powerful experience to be able to feel Wolf. And yes, there was a bit of a bossiness to the Wolf, and to be witnessed. I love to experience your channeling. It's so deep and profound.
Thank you.
And, yeah, it's definitely a huge gift. Oftentimes we sort of forget about the depth of the wisdom that the animal spirits are bringing. So that's a beautiful experience. I love hearing about how it felt inside your body.
Yeah, thank you. That's also part of my goal, is to share, what is the ceremony like for the facilitator, and what is the ceremony like for the participant? Everybody has their own experience. And you viewers who are watching may or may not have experience facilitating ceremony. So it felt right to me to clue you in a little bit of what is that like as I'm preparing to hold another energy. How does it affect my body? How does it affect my system? I had someone tell me, another participant tell me afterwards, they were completely ravenous and they wanted like a giant burger, you know, so they could feel the wolf coming into them, demanding nutrition, demanding meat. And it does affect your form. It affects your body to be working with these energies.
Yeah, and so I think that's an important thing to talk about, is that when we are working with a particular energy, how it does affect the physical body. It does affect what you crave to eat. It does affect what you want to look at on, you know, in media. It does affect where you know, how you walk even, or how you talk. It has a huge effect. And so when we want to create change within ourselves, you know, we are all channels. We're all able to channel energies. We're doing it often all the time without even realizing it. And so when we're conscious of that, when we are aware and we are, you know, working with energies specifically, intentionally, you know, authentically, with honor and reverence and care for who they are, for the energy that they are, and we listen. And the more that we listen, then the more that we listen to them, the more that we allow them, you know, to be with us, the more that they're able to impart their wisdom and their medicine. And you know, they do affect change. So if you're working with an energy, it will affect change in your life.
Yeah, well said. Absolutely. And so you were working with some pretty big energies this weekend too.
I was working with huge energies this weekend. Oh my gosh. I really, I can't even explain all of the incredible magic and depth of experience that I had this weekend. Called into medicine ceremony over 2 nights, and called into a group ceremonial experience focused on mediumship and on healing work and activating healing energies, working with the angelic realms, and being allowed to enter into mediumship in context of the ceremony. For me, and some of you might relate to this, I had a very intense awakening activation. I did not gain my channel, my activation, those things through going and doing ceremony and these things. It was a spontaneous awakening for me. And for a long time, I didn't really have a lot of control over my channel. I was very, you know, ungrounded in a lot of ways. I had a lot of internal healing work to do. When I first started, I was channeling all kinds of beings, and I didn't really understand exactly what I was doing, the processes of what I was doing. So I stayed away from ceremonial work because I didn't have enough control over my system, because things would come through so easily. And so it was such a beautiful blessing to be held within this particular ceremonial work, in which I was allowed to enter into my medium state, and I was allowed to be the healer that I am, and to work with other healers, working on people in context of the ceremonial work. And like, this is the essence of who I am. The essence of my being is this. And so to be allowed this experience of being called forward to be the healer and to be the medium for the energies that we're moving through is such a blessing for me, such a blessing. And you know, we worked with very powerful beings that came in and were just bringing their medicine. And as these beings brought their medicine, so many things were happening within my own system of, like I said, that looking at myself and moving the healing through my body, of receiving deep healing on my physical body, on my spine, on my neck. And a lot of that was not comfortable at all. Being allowed, we had a past life experience that we were allowed to have, which was very informative for me in relationship to this neck injury that I have. And we worked with the the celestial realms, working with archangels, and to be allowed to witness channeling of Archangel Michael, and to feel and receive the energy from that realm, which is so powerful and so bright. And one of the things that was an experience for me, and that mirrors what I have been teaching and have been taught in my own healing journey, is the experience of really having to kind of go through, remove the dross, like go through the gunk, right? Like look at all the stuff and feel it in your body, and having to really witness within the mind's eye the horrors of the world, and feel them in my body, and feel them, and surrender and surrender and surrender, and move them through and breathe them through. Having to go through all of that, sort of cleaning it out to get to the place where there is an access point to these really higher level light beings. You know, we have to do a lot of work on ourselves.
Absolutely.
In order to get to that place where you can actually be bathed in the amount of light that comes from an angel. And, you know, we often don't want to do that work, that's the pre-work, because it's gross, it's yucky, it doesn't feel good. And
yeah, that's the not fun, uncomfortable aspect of ceremony, when you've got to sort through your own gunk.
Yeah. But the key, you know, the key really is in surrender. It really is in releasing attachment and saying, yes, 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 I'm here, and show me, and let me receive the medicine. And you know, you can ask, let it be easeful, but knowing that we have to be of a certain vibration to receive certain frequencies.
Yeah.
And we're working on that through our healing process. When we're working on ourselves, we're working on that so that we can get to that place where we can have access to that, and we can really receive those messages. I had a beautiful experience with Archangel Raphael, and really receiving that light, and receiving the information on how much, you know, I had known that there was something there before, but really getting really clear on how much of my path is informed as the healer, that is a huge stream of light that's moving through my life and my work, and really allowing that, how guided that I am. And you know, being in this particular ceremonial work, just really being witnessed to all of the decisions that I've been guided to make, even, you know, moving down here to Southern California, and how all of those have been so guided on this path as the healer, as the medium that I am. And the more that I can say yes, the more that I can drop into the truth of who I am, and allow it to be expressed, allow it to be seen and witnessed, the more energy and power that is sort of pushed behind me, so that my path is made even more clear.
Definitely. So Kat, it's you know, to kind of put this story in the context of what we've been talking about already, there were some profound experiences, some really beautiful experiences that you had that shed light on other aspects of your life. And you got to have illuminated in the past choices that you've made, and in this life and in other lifetimes, energies were brought to light. And also moving forward, I know that you are absolutely one for embracing the energies and moving forward with action. So what a beautiful example of how ceremony holds it's like a keystone. It's sort of a punctuated moment where everything gets to be highlighted. And you get to either look at it in the light of, oh, here's this new information, this new light, this new infusion of energy that I get to shine that light on everything else in my life, reaching forward and backward, and have a look at it, or not. And I know that, of course, you are, and of course I am. One thing that was coming up as you were sharing your story, remember last week, for those of you who haven't seen our episode from last week yet, we held ceremony. And you're still free to go back and participate in that ceremony. We set a container that knows no bounds of space and time. So please go if you would like to experience ceremony with us. Go watch our last episode. There was a portion in that episode where I channeled a piece of information about pain. Now, Kat, both you and I have shared some stories of this weekend about certain uncomfortabilities of ceremony. And I've been taking that message to heart this week. I totally forgot to tell you about this, actually. But in that channeling, there was the aspect of embracing pain, not as something to be worked through, but as something to simply be experienced. So in this last week, whenever I have felt pain arise, or grief, or any emotions that don't feel great, anything that feels kind of crunchy to me, instead of saying, okay, I got to breathe through it, I got to work through it, I got to release it, I'm just saying, yes, thank you, teacher. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Please teach me more. Welcome, pain. Welcome, teacher. I welcome you with open arms. I embrace you. I am ready for your lessons. I feel better within minutes. It's amazing.
Yes. And I found that as well when it's, in life in general, and then in the ceremonial work, just being, wow, that's ugly, that's painful, that's really uncomfortable, and witnessing the like honoring, just being really in deep honoring of that power that's there.
Yeah.
That it is a teacher. It's not for nothing. It's not for nothing. It's a great teacher for us. And we so often are trying to do anything we can to avoid pain. And a lot of times when we become spiritual, we want to be, I am in the light and I am in the love and I am this all of the time. And that's not really realistic what I find is that we are always brought back to the light and the love, that it always circles back to that after we've had the experience of really looking at ourselves in the pain. Like, we're always reminded, there's always that reminder at the end of the experience of, don't forget. It is all light and love, but yes, this other is also important for you to see.
Definitely. And you mentioned surrender too. Surrender is not a passive act. Surrender is a very active commitment. So when you're talking about surrendering to the discomfort, and I was surrendering to the uncomfortability of having my ribs pried apart, it wasn't just a, oh, okay, fine. It was a, yes, please, welcome.
Yes.
I embrace you with open arms. And that is how one of the ways in which we create action steps, this whole episode that we're talking about is action steps of how do we use these lessons that we receive in ceremony to then go out in the world and apply that information and apply those lessons.
Yes. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. I want to talk about how the work that we both did this weekend fits in the global context. So what are your action steps? I've got some of my action steps. I'm curious, what are you looking forward to and moving forward with the momentum of this weekend?
Well, you know, one of the things that I had said as we turned over our new presidential experience was to really be committed. You know, we talk about the first 100 days, to really be committed to ceremonial acts on a daily basis, and to be really committed to prayers for the betterment of all beings on this planet, and to take those actions on a daily basis and be committed to that for myself. And so that's one of the commitments that I have. And you know, one of the commitments that keeps coming up and coming back is really to hold myself accountable for being the fullness of who I am, that I've been given an amazing opportunity, this amazing gift to do the work that I do as a healer, as a guide, as a medium, and to be so committed to that, and to service to the world, to service to you know, my clients and the people who watch, and to my friends, to spreading you know, one of my main missions is to train and facilitate the healers on this planet who are awakening so rapidly to bring their gifts to the world, to learn their gifts to the new level. And I'm just so committed to that that purpose and that path, and looking for ways that I can serve, like as I was sitting in the ceremony and meeting the people in this ceremony and seeing their path as healers and mediums, and finding the places that I can contribute to that, to contribute to them. Because if I can contribute to a healer learning their energy system better, learning how to have their boundaries, learning how to be an effective channel, if I can contribute to them, they're going to contribute to who knows how many people, hundreds of people. And so that is something that I'm massively committed to. And I'm also committed, I'm really excited to be going this next week, I believe it is, to be going to assist with creating a program, bringing my work to some homeless youth that are experiencing some spiritual crises and, you know, mental issues. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, that I've been putting that into motion. So I'm really excited to have that as a contribution, that I'm as a give out for my work.
Wonderful. Oh my goodness. And so people who are watching or, you know, participating in ceremony of your own, think about, what are your commitments? This is something that I like to do, and Kat, I know you like to do this too, as closing any ceremony, whether it's for myself or I'm facilitating or participating in a group ceremony. Look toward, what are the action steps? How do I harness the magic and potent energy that was created and fostered and brought forth here to then carry it out into the world? And this was something that I had my participants do in my wolf medicine workshop. And I actually have here the note card that I wrote of my own commitments in working with wolf medicine. So I will share those with you now. When I was channeling pack leader and feeling wolf song so strongly within me, feeling this magic active, how does wolf want to work with me, and how can I honor wolf medicine? Those are the questions I was asking myself. How can I create this alchemical relationship with a very potent guide? And these are the commitments that I wrote. I commit to being a pack leader. I commit to going at my own pace and trusting that I will not be left behind. This is one thing about wolves, is that whenever they travel, whenever the pack travels, it goes at the pace of the slowest member. The elders, the injured, they're the ones who lead the pack whenever they're moving together. And the pack leader goes at the back to protect and see everyone and witness everyone and make sure that the group is safe. So apparently I have a little bit of anxiety that I didn't know about, oh, I have to do everything as quickly as possible. And actually I did know that about myself. That's not new information, but in terms of my my spiritual growth and my growth in this path as a pack leader, I'm committing to giving myself permission to grow in my own space and time and trust that that is perfect in divine timing. So that was a big one for me, is my spiritual pack is not going to leave me behind. I commit to singing my truth song always. I commit to writing the book of animal song. That was a new one. Apparently, I have to write a book now. Or I get to write a book now. There we go. I commit to taking joy in my role as a pack leader, because wolf medicine is deeply steeped in joy. Yes, they are shepherds of balance. They are apex predators. They are keystone species that hold the balance of all beings within a dynamic bioregion. And they take joy. There's so much joy in wolf medicine. So I commit to taking joy in my role as a pack leader as I do my work in service to my community.
So beautiful. And I know you'll do all of those things, Michelle.
Thank you. Yep, I got to work on my book now.
I know.
I have enough articles. I should just see where I'm at with the articles and see what happens from here.
Yeah, beautiful. And I love what you were saying about the commitment, and that is so important, that we're not just being allowed to have this beautiful experience and, oh, I got to see an angel, and oh, a unicorn came and snuffled on me, and it's not just like, it's not all about me. It's not about, oh, I'm so special, I get to have this experience. It's about, oh, I'm so special, I actually get to be of service.
Yeah.
And in the ceremonies that I was in, my number one intention going into the ceremony was to be of service in the ceremony. And I'm sure that for you as a facilitator, as a shaman in a ceremony, that is the first and foremost intention of our work when we're there, is show me how to be of service.
Yeah.
And help me be of greater service in this moment, in this ceremony, and in every moment of my life.
Yes. That's the intention, is so when I'm creating space for this energy to move through me, and I know you do this too, I've witnessed you hold ceremony as well, it's how can I surrender? How can I say yes to embracing this energy? How can I commit myself to creating a space for this energy to move into the earth plane? When you're in channel space, that's what you're doing, is you are co-creating with whatever energy or entity you're channeling to bring it forth into the earth plane. It's not about me. It's not about what I want. If I had my way, I would have been eating chocolate, but I wasn't allowed to eat chocolate. So that's my part of my service to Wolf Totem, was to keep my body a safe container for that energy to occupy this form.
Yeah. And to do what is called to be done, right? To go, oh, okay, well, this is what you want. You want the altar to be this way. Got it. Okay. You want me to put this on? Okay. And, you're building relationships. I think that as channels, we must be conscious of the relationships that we're building, and, the honor and the devotion that we have to building these relationships. And the more that we can sit within that, the more that we're allowed the experience. I mean, what an honor to be allowed the experience of channeling healing spirits through our bodies, or animal spirits. What a pure what a pure honor. And I just always come back to that humble honor that it is. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't make, I mean, it doesn't make, being a channel doesn't, you know, like make you, you know, enlightened or anything. I mean, you definitely receive a lot of information and guidance by being a channel that helps you to raise in consciousness. But, you know, it's not that we're, you know, oh my gosh, I'm so much more special than everyone else in by being able to do this. But I'm so honored. I'm so in humble, receptive, surrendered honor of the experience, whatever it is, and allowing and letting go and releasing. And you know, oftentimes we want to control everything in this world, and we want to control all of our experiences and what they are. And yet when we're dealing with doing really deep healing work and doing really deep mediumship work, the name of the game is really surrender, let go. And you know, these are important lessons for us in every moment of our life, especially as we are witnessing what is happening now, that we must be in action mode, but also in a state of surrender, so that we can receive what it is that we're supposed to actually be doing.
Yeah. And so that we can be present for the next steps moving forward. So to our viewers now, I invite you to think about, what are your commitments? Whether you choose to go back and participate in the ceremony episode that we had last week, whether you create ceremony for yourself, whether you find a ceremony to have group ceremony with, think about, how are you placing the context of ceremony, placing the microcosm of ceremony in the context of your life? And what are your commitments? What is your service? What is your surrender in moving forward with that infusion of new energy? This is how we live as shamans. This is what living a shamanic life means. It means that every breath is a prayer. Every moment is living ritual. Every practice is an opportunity for devotion. And so how can we commit ourselves to being present for that, to being present to call in peace in every moment, to be in service with every step, to honor in each heartbeat is a rhythm of divine timing and honoring. So that's our invitation to you. And if you would like help with that, Katherine and I are available and so excited if you would like our assistance in taking the lessons from your ceremonial experiences. If you have ceremony that you've done already, or if you would like to receive or participate in some ceremony, Kat and I are happy to do that with you. And please, whatever initiatory or activation experiences you have, we would love to help you transform them into actionable mission steps, actionable purpose, actionable commitment here on Earth plane, so that you can take this, again, take the microcosm of ceremony and initiation and put it into action in your life. So we do have a form. We've got a contact form where you can contact us
at shamansistersessions@gmail.com. I put that in the chat.
Great.
And we do have a program in which you can work with both of us and receive both of our medicines, and then we would be able to place you more into maybe one of our individual programs, or create a program for you that's going to really support where you're at, where you want to go, and you know, how you're really going to get there. And we're so honored to do this work. We're so honored to share our lives and our experiences with you, as we are all holding this collective into the rising of consciousness on this planet, and our deep devotional service to this work and to this world.
Yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And as always, we love to hear from you. So again, Shaman Sister Sessions @gmail.com. You can also find our Facebook page, Shaman Sister Sessions. And all of our past episodes are uploaded both on YouTube and on my website. I have a dedicated Shaman Sister Sessions page. So again, please let us know what's coming up for you and how we can help you ground in ceremonial initiatory activation experiences into action steps in your life.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Kat. So nice to see you, to speak with you. Thank you for joining us, and until next week.
See you next week. Do we remember, do we have a topic for next week, Michelle?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
No problem. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it always is. So, thank you.
Thank you.